Hey guys, and welcome to another movie review. I know it's a little weird as far as the aesthetic goes because you're probably used to seeing the blue screen, where today you get to see what's behind me. Honestly, this is the room that I usually do a lot of the recordings, video editing, and such in. Now, with that being said, the one thing that I want to be able to always provide you guys is the ability to bring you the correct information. I did get a chance to see so many movies through the week, or at least the past 2 weeks, that it's kind of hard to keep track once it comes down to the actual recording of these reviews. With that being said, of course, I'm here sitting in front of a computer, so then that way I can make sure that I do provide you guys with the correct and most accurate information. I did get a chance to go see The Exorcist, Believer in theaters, and we'll also be kind of discussing the true story behind the first original Exorcist that was done in the 1970s. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump back and go into the review for The Exorcist, Believer.
Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and...
Now, if you have not seen the original Exorcist that was done, of course, by 1970s, it is honestly kind of based on a true story a little bit. The actual story does follow the 1971 book by William Blady, who was inspired to write the novel after reading about Roland Doe while he was a student at Georgetown University. The Exorcist was adapted to Friedrichsen's 1973 film and starred 12-year-old Linda Blair as Regan, a young girl who becomes possessed. Now, who exactly is Roland Doe? Honestly, a lot of people and individuals didn't know who the true individual was until later on throughout the years, and honestly, I don't think it was discovered maybe within a couple of decades, to be wholly honest. Now, like I said, the actual real story is about a 13-year-old Roland Doe, a male, not a female as it is depicted in the film. Now, Roland Doe, who went by that name for a long time, was later found out to be Robbie Mannheim. He was, of course, a kid who grew up in Missouri, St. Louis to be exact, and the reason for the possession is because of the fact that he was very involved with his aunt in terms of her spirituality religion, and that is, of course, covering anything that has to deal with talking to the dead or spirits, or honestly, and actively using the Ouija board, which everybody knows that you don't mess with a Ouija board. So, by 1949, with, of course, the aunt's passing, he hit it hard. During that time period, he tried to speak to his aunt through the Ouija board, which, of course, didn't welcome very nice individuals, let's put it that way, demonic entities. And with these entities, of course, it did start off with voices that he would hear throughout the day, as far as talking to him and him hearing something in the background. And in all honesty, that's kind of how it happens, right? We do understand that throughout the Conjuring movies kind of explains how possession takes place and exorcism takes place as well. Now, from my understanding, is he did go from St. Louis and I believe Ohio. If I'm incorrect, please let me know down in the comments. But he did travel from St. Louis to Ohio, or around the Midwest region, because of the exorcism that his mom was having him partake in, really, to get those demonic entities out of him. Which later on, the priests do believe that it was a total of 10, because during the actual exorcism that they were providing, there was a red axe that showcased on his forehead. Now, what ends up taking place and how he actually gets out of it does coincide by about March 20th, which he started hearing all the stuff in January. So that's a big chunk between, as far as exorcisms go, and the multitudes that he has had and the voices. So with a little bit of passage here, it states Ronald, he urinated all over his bed and began shouting and cursing at the priest. Now, this was actually taking place over at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, where Ronald Hunkler, aka Roland Doe, or Robbie Mannheim, was treated. And he honestly, during the time period when he had urinated all over the bed, cursing at the priest, and his parents basically had enough. They took him to this hospital. By April 18th, a miracle occurred in Ronald's room. The Alexian brothers, so the priests, It was Monday after Easter, and Ronald awoke with seizures. He yelled at the priest, saying that Satan would always be with him. The priest laid holy relics, crucifixes, medals, and rosaries on the boy. At 10:45 p.m. that evening, the attending priest called on St. Michael to expel Satan from Ronald's body. They shouted at Satan, saying that St. Michael would battle him for Ronald's soul. 7 minutes later, Ronald came out of his trance and said he's gone. The teenager recounted how he had a vision of St. Michael vanquishing Satan on a great battlefield, which is a wonderful thing to hear that he was able to come out of it. Especially mentioning about St. Michael. Now, if you're actually looking for the hospital itself, it no longer exists. From my understanding, it was torn down. And with that being said, where the exorcism actually took place as far as the room goes, it was rumored to be that the demonic entity still happened to be in that room. And after that situation happened, that none of the priests, nobody went into that room, because even after that day, they would encounter tables, chairs, the bedding actually flying to the walls themselves. So that's a little backstory about the true story that inspired The Exorcist. So let's go ahead and jump into The Exorcist Believer. Now, this was directed by David Gordon Green. If you know this director, he has done the most recent Halloween films, so Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Now, Halloween 2018 was really good. Halloween Kills was okay. And then Halloween Ends, it's a toss-up. A lot of individuals don't like it, but some individuals do like it. So it's one of those hit or misses. It does star, now The Exorcist Believer does star, of course, Ellen Burstyn, Jennifer Nettles, Leslie Odom, and a few other people like Lydia Jewett, as well as Olivia O'Neill. So those are kind of like the main actors and actresses. There is a little bit of Easter egg, so a minor spoiler here, but Linda Blair does show up. Yes, that's Regan McNeil. And her mother, Chris McNeil. So the original two from the first Exorcist movie is in this film as well. Essentially what it does is it follows Victor Fielding and his daughter, Angela. We first get introduced to Victor in Haiti, where his wife is pregnant with Angela, and a horrible earthquake happens, eventually leading to Victor having to make the horrible decision that no father or husband should make. And the doctors basically said, well, you can either choose to save your wife or to choose to save the baby. But either way, we can't save them both. Ultimately, at the end, I'm not going to spoil it, they showcase what he decides on doing in that circumstance. But fast forward about 12 years later, 13 years later, now she's in high school. So through this time period, well, I guess I would put her at 14, 15. So 16 years later, she's in high school, and she is friends with Catherine, played by Olivia O'Neill, and they end up going to the forest. Now, Olivia O'Neill, her character, Catherine, is Christian-based. She is a Christian individual, where Angela and her father, Victor, they're not very religious in any sense. Victor kind of gave up with religion due to the death and passing of his wife. So essentially, Angela and Catherine go into the woods because Angela wants to be able to speak to her mom. During this time frame, Catherine kind of shows her a little bit of the pagan ritual, kind of similar to how, of course, Roland did in the real life, right? And how he got possessed. They do something similar because Angela wants to see and speak to her mom. Long story short, it is The Exorcist. They end up getting possessed. Now, throughout this process, it is a pretty well done exorcism movie. A lot better than some of the ones that we've had, I would say, within the early 2000s. Now, The Conjuring has done wonderful. Other than that, I would honestly not really put it at top tier with The Conjuring, but it is better than, like, say, Haunting in Connecticut, for an example, or The Last Exorcism, or any of those films and specifically. So this movie does play good tribute to the original source material as far as characters go, as well as story progression with the characters that we loved, like Linda Blair or Ellen, the mother. Now, where this movie, to my opinion, kind of falters is the truth. And because I do know that with Hollywood, they do put their own spin on a few things. With true exorcism, from my understanding, is it's just either Catholic priests do it or Christians priests actually do it. From my understanding, from knowing someone who has done them, he is Christian based, so he has experience and done exorcism on his own. Well, I shouldn't say on his own, but with groups and individuals. With that being said, what this film does is they bring in both spirituality, Catholicism, and Christianity. So it kind of mixes all three, which kind of didn't really seem authentic. In my opinion, you guys may think completely different, but in my opinion, it didn't really seem authentic to the true how an exorcism would go, because you're kind of messing with a little bit of paganism in there too. So a little bit of paganism is thrown in there with Christianity and Catholicism. So it was just a little weird. The other thing that I will say though is the music is very true to how the original one does. It fits wonderfully. The cinematography, of course, with the lighting and the coloration of everything, it's very beautifully shot. It's very beautifully done. The angles, it's very average, I would honestly say. When it comes to the jump scares, unfortunately, they're movies nowadays, they rely too much on jump scares, and that's what this film kind of does in some sequences. Now it's a good ending, as far as happy ending, but also not so happy ending too. I won't say exactly too much in that realm, but if you're expecting a true happy ending, this is not really the film. You kind of leave the theater with, oh, that was a good ending, but it was very sad in the circumstance and everything of that nature, especially if you're a father. But regardless, though, the story was pretty well done. The pacing was pretty well done as well. It does not feel like a 2-hour movie whatsoever. But overall, though, it was fun. It was enjoying. It's something that you should see, especially during this Halloween season. Now, would I actually purchase it? Maybe on digital. Not so much as a hard copy. The hard copy, of course, goes more towards the original Exorcist because it is a classic. I mean, what movie has came out nowadays that has made people throw up in the theater like the original has done? So, I mean, that's a feat all on its own. But, like I said, that's my opinion on it. That's my take on it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Will I see it in the future? Yeah, probably. I mean, if it's on streaming and if it's during the Halloween time, yeah, absolutely. But will I go out and actually be the first to buy it? Not so much. Again, it was a good film. Probably one of the director's better films that he has within his film basis. So, again, if you've seen it, leave a comment down below. If you do like this content, go ahead and subscribe, as well as follow us on all social platforms, because any support is the best support. So we'll see you next time for the next review.